So what's working well is, again, we've been able to cut down on our headcount. AI has efficiently streamlined the whole process, and the output is better than anything we've ever done. Our friction in the business is still the people portion of the business. So although sales is coming along with AI, you can have AI agents, things of that nature. It's still not there yet. And so there's no replacing someone going and shaking a hand right now. It's hard. It's hard to do that, right? Not that we won't get there in the next year, because it's coming along quite quickly, especially with AI phone agents and things like that. You can replace your receptionist now and it does just as good a job. But on that outbound type of process, we're just not there yet. And so that's our biggest bottleneck, is finding the right people who understand where we're going and where we want to go and how much you have to work. Because again, I think there's a stopwatch going. And we have a very short amount of time to figure this out before AI does take over everyone's job. So that's always the hardest part, finding good people.
Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where I go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stephen Bradley, and today's guest is James Katz, co-founder and CEO of Illumination Marketing. How are you doing, James?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Stephen.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. So my first question is, for people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey and what made you start your own business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today at Illumination Marketing.
Yeah, that's a loaded question right there. So my journey is probably a little bit different than most, in that I've been in marketing and branding for the better part of 20 years now. I actually started off in the entertainment industry. I was a professional wrestler for 8 years, which was really cool. It took me all around the world. But I used to tell people I was a piano player at a brothel because I wanted them to think I had a dignified career. But it taught me a lot of cool things. It taught me about TV and timing and politicking and talking and all the soft skills that you really need in the entertainment industry to succeed. And it was cool. It took me all around the United States. I was on TV in multiple states. I wrestled internationally. I wrestled movie stars, famous people. It was great, right? Figured out I was beating up my brain for not nearly enough money, so I decided to transition. I went to college. I graduated with a degree in radio and television, and after that, I quickly moved to Houston, where I became a media buyer for Fortune 500 companies. And some of my clients included AT&T, SodaStream, Arby's, Sleep Number, FanDuel. I relaunched Zest in Canada, so that was kind of a really cool project. Wanted a different challenge, so I went over to a marketing company based in the automotive vertical, where I quickly got promoted into management, and I helped take my section of the company from losing $400,000 to making just under $2 million in 2 years. And I grew my team from a team of 4 people to a team of 10 people who each had about 10 people under them. So the span of control went right. I don't know what you know about automotive, but it's a lot like sports in that everyone's job is on the line every single month. So when you start off the first 7 days of the month poorly, you have auto dealers calling you out, cursing you out, saying unkind things about you, your character, your family, and it was no longer an environment that was conducive to personal or professional growth. So I ended up seeking other opportunities and became a marketing executive in the healthcare industry, where I helped rebuild their whole marketing strategy from the ground up. And it was really successful in that we helped to reach $20 million for their first year in their 20-year company history. And they go, James, thank you for all of this work. Here's an $8,000 raise. And it's one of those moments that just make you go, right, $20 million, $8,000. And so the wheels started turning. And it's not a bad company. I'm extremely grateful for every opportunity that they ever provided me. But there's another reason that we also started our business. My wife and I have an autistic daughter, and at that same time, around what the story I just told you, she was about 10 years old. And being autistic, there was only about 3 places in the entire world that she would eat when she was 10. And one of those places was here in Houston, called the Houston Texans Grill. And it had everything you could possibly want, right? It had great food, it had a great location, a great bar, great ambiance, great staff, everything, right? So one day we took our daughter up there to eat, and she runs up to the door and she just goes to try and open it, and she can't open it. It's locked. So my wife and I make our way up there, and we see a sign on the door that says, "Thank you for the last 5 years. We've gone out of business." And so my daughter, being 10 and autistic at the time, she's like, "I don't understand. I want to go in there. Let's go eat." And we're like, "Well, we can't." So we took her to another location that she ate at, and we explained capitalism to a girl who wasn't quite ready to hear about it yet. But my wife and I got to talking and we're like, so why did this business go out of business? They had everything you could possibly want. And then it dawned on us and the light bulb went on and Illumination Marketing was born. We had the skills to help these businesses make more money that they could have continued paying their employees. They could continue building their dreams. And we figured out that we could apply those skills to smaller businesses to help them. And so that's when we really decided to go into business for ourselves. And that was in 2017. And since that point, we have helped everything from upstarts with 0 clients all the way to the big guys like GE Healthcare, Kelsey Siebold, Group 1 Automotive, Allied Power Group, and everything in between. And it's actually a really long-winded way of saying we've helped to drive over $350 million in revenue in the last 5 years.
Wow. First of all, that's an amazing story as well. What is the difference from working, because obviously you just said then you work with, it started off like the motivation was to help smaller brands, like you said then. So what is the difference in what you do for bigger brands as opposed to the smaller brand, or is it a lot of it the same?
So it's a lot of the same. It's just scale, right? So more of what works, but we have had a natural evolution of our business since we started. Yes, we wanted to help a lot of small businesses when we started, but the problem with helping small businesses is they go, hey, I can only afford $500 a month. And if this doesn't work, I have to sell my house. And it's not the kind of pressure that I really wanted to live under anymore. So we started transitioning to bigger and bigger businesses. And unfortunately, it does take money to make money. And especially when you're in competitive markets like we're in Houston. We're the 3rd or 4th biggest city in the United States. So it's extremely competitive. And so $500 a month, especially what we do, the majority of what we do is SEO, it really doesn't move the needle at $500 a month. So we started transitioning to bigger businesses and bigger businesses. And that's just been a natural evolution of the process. But how it works is roughly the same, especially when it comes to SEO. It's just doing more of it to get the results a little bit quicker.
Definitely. And what made you go into doing like SEO as opposed to a full service agency?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a full service agency. That's what we tell everybody. And that's really how we started, right? Is we saw the restaurants who were like, hey, we want to help them. And, we had always done bigger businesses, auto dealers, the healthcare company, et cetera, et cetera. So when we started off, it was a lot of social media. And there's a perfect example. We didn't know if it would work for smaller businesses. So the very first client we took on was a company called Ambrisa Social Mexican Kitchen here in Houston. And they were fantastic, right? But their marketing left a little bit of something to be desired at that point in time. And so my wife went in and I went in to just eat the food and kind of cold call, I guess, just to see. And they were coming out of a marketing meeting and they had frowns on their faces. And marketing should be the fun part of business. It's the creative part. It's the part that gets people excited. So if you're leaving a marketing meeting with a frown, you've done something wrong. And so we saw that and we started a conversation with them and we eventually agreed to do a multi-pronged approach for them. And so we did social media, we did email marketing, we did PR for them, we've done social media ads for them, and it was really, really successful in that the very first month they saw revenue raise 23.3%. They saw revenue double within 12 months, and then they opened 2 more locations within 18 months after that. So it was really exciting and it worked, and we started doing all that. And so we're like, man, restaurants are easy and we're foodies and we can go take pictures and videos and eat a bunch of food and drink a bunch of drinks and this will be great. And then the pandemic happened. And I don't know what it was like over in the UK, but here in the United States, they shut down everything, right? And over 60% of our revenue was tied up in the hospitality industry when that happened. And so we thought we might go out of business that very first month that it happened because all the restaurants were going out of business. And we're like, we're not going to have a job. And so that's where we decided, you know what? We really need to start specializing in something other than just restaurants and social media. And so around 2023, we really made the decision that we wanted to niche down a little bit more than what we were doing. So 2 types of marketing, right? You have interruption marketing, social media marketing, where people are just scrolling through, they're looking at cat videos, and then they see your ad, and then they go, huh, and they scroll back for half a second, and they either hit the button or they scroll on. But that is interruption marketing. You're trying to interrupt someone's day to give them something that they want. And it's a really tough sell when you do that, but it works for the restaurant industry. When we started targeting higher end businesses that needed a different type of marketing, that's where we had intent marketing come into it. And this is like SEO and pay per click and where that comes in. So we want to be the problem, a high ticket problem, and we want to help be the solution for that person when they're looking at that problem, right? And it's a lot more successful and the sale is a little bit easier. So we transitioned our business that way to do less interruption and more intent based marketing and starting to funnel it down. And then since that point, SEO it's a lot easier too, because you can post all of your content on one day and it doesn't penalize you because of the crawl frequencies that Google does, versus social media where you have to post every day. And if you don't, you kind of lose all of your momentum, right? The algorithms just work in different ways. And so we wanted to lean that direction because it bought back more of our time. We found more enjoyment out of it. And it was just a better process. So yes, we're full service. We've done PR. We've gotten people on news. We've created television shows. We've done social media. We've done all that in 7-8 years now. But when we started niching down into specifically SEO and pay-per-click and websites and a couple of other things to help fill in the gaps, that's where we saw our revenue start to escalate a lot quicker.
Okay, James, so now we know we've got a background about yourself and now the business as well. Let's move on to sort of operations. Could you walk me through how you currently deliver for clients sort of like day to day?
Yeah, totally. So again, 66% of our revenue is search engine optimization, SEO. And so we have specifically workflows that are designed around that. Now, I don't know if you know how SEO works in a very, very high level way. There's really 3 main things that make it work. The first is what we call technical SEO. It's making sure that the foundation is set, that it's fast, that it's secure. It's all the non-sexy stuff of SEO, but it's kind of like building a house. You have to pour the foundation before you put the studs up or the studs fall in on themselves, right? So we have to take care of that first before anything else. Otherwise, you can't even get found. The second one is content. So Google is a trust engine. The whole purpose of Google is to reply with the very best answer for every question asked. And the way it does that is something we call topical authority. So it's being the authority on a subject that Google trusts you enough to represent you in their search results. And so we have to have enough content and enough places about enough things that are specifically related to the core service in order for it to get found. So we have to have that built into the plan. And then the third part of SEO is what we call backlinks. It's like Google's word of mouth marketing, right? It's when someone else links from their website to your website, and it's probably the biggest power lever we can pull in SEO right now. And the reason for that is if you get a backlink from Forbes or Men's Health or whatever it is, people are, Google goes, oh, these are really highly authoritative websites. We're going to trust that they're not linking to someone who's like the class clown, you know? And so it's working on all 3 of those sections. So, and then we also have a 4th section, which is like local SEO. So for a lot of what we do, it's helping local service-based businesses grow within the map pack. And so that works on its whole different algorithm, right? So it has different things that needs to work. I tell you that to tell you this about our workflows. So we have to have people that will fix the technical aspects every month. We have to have people that will write the content every month. We have to have people that will get the backlinks every month. And then we have to have people that will work on the map pack every month. So 3 years ago, before transformer technology really became a big thing, you know, but before ChatGPT and Google and all those fun things started, we paid people specifically for each of those jobs. Since it started to come along, we can use AI to really get the work done in a fraction of the time with a better output than what we were doing before. So as an example, if we were paying someone $500 to write a blog on, you know, the energy industry, specifically like oil and gas or LNGs or something like that, it's very specialized knowledge. So we'd have to pay them $500. It'd take a week to turn around an article. Then we'd have changes that we have to do. And then we'd send it back to the client. And then, you know, the whole process, right? You start the brief, you send it to them to get it approved. You send it back to the writer writer does it, you send them the first draft, or you change the first draft, you send it back to the writer, then they redo it, then you send it to the client for approval, and it just became a really, really big process, right? And so for now, with AI, we can automate a lot of these processes better than that whole process ever could. So we can do all of our research, we can make sure that it's verified through legitimate sources, which then can put a brief together within a minute based off of all of that research that it's done, and then we can send it to either a blog writer, or AI is becoming to a point where if you prompt it in the appropriate ways and you prompt it section by section instead of a whole article, you can get a output that is far greater than any human writer can do. So, but the secret is, right, garbage in, garbage out. So you have to be really, really detailed in what the prompt is going in. So as an example, we have like a 30-page prompt that we put in just to get a 1,000-word article. So it's a lot, but that being said, workflows, right? So we can do that now, and then we can send it to the client and it cuts everything down, which means that our output can be significantly more because it's supplemented by AI. Our business margins have increased because it's supplemented by AI. We don't have to pay people so much. And it's just having vendors for every section that needs to fill in the gaps.
Well, you just answered my next question, which was around how are you using AI in your business. But I just want to reframe the question a little bit and more like, are you using automation to help you being able to like take, because another sort of byproduct of what you've just said then is you're going to be able to take on more clients and not have to scale the headcount, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So do you use like automation so they run sort of like on command sort of thing, or is it more that you have, sort of people that are using ChatGPT, Claude, whichever is your pick your poison type of thing, using it, as more separately? Does that make sense?
Probably a little bit of both. So what we've done is we've built an internal software that does a lot of our heavy lifting for us. So we took our processes and our SOPs and we broke them down and we put them into AI, which then created enough of a flow that we could put it into a software that does all of those tasks for us, because one task leads to the next task, which leads to the next, like I just mentioned with the writing briefs, right? So now all of the research can be done, all of the everything, right? So it's like a 11-step system with individual steps in those big steps within the buckets, right? But what that does, and what has failed from the past, which is why this has gotten so much better, is we can look at the client data. We can look at what has worked historically. We can search for people also asked, or Reddit, or Quora, or those things that we need to do. We can look for EDU links and government official documents, and we can all pull that into the brief, and all of this can be done within so from start to finish now. Everything for writing a blog article can be done within about 15 minutes for us now, where again, it used to take us all that other time, and the output's amazing. It will even pull hyperlocal content, so like landmarks within regions, which is how we'll help rank us in Google Maps and things like that. So it's gotten really, really in depth. And then we can even pull customer avatars and motivations and demographics and psychographics, all pulled into the brief, to where it becomes a hyper specific, finely tuned psychological step article, instead of just saying, hey, we do carpet cleaning in Houston, right? So
Gold is in the data. Do you know what I mean? The more data, like you just said then, do you know what I mean? Being able to get the psychographics, the demographics, all these different things, the more data you can actually give it, the much better product the finished product that you're going to have.
yeah, absolutely. Garbage in versus garbage out, right? And then where it gets really cool is you don't just stop at an article anymore like you used to. Now you can go, okay, use this article to feed our ad system. Use this article to get the feedback from the ads that will then fine tune our core offer and our USP. And it's just this constantly refining cycle at a click of a button every single morning that just refines it and refines it and refines it. And it becomes this like flywheel system that one person can honestly operate now. You don't need a team like you used to. It's really mind-blowing what you can do with it.
Was that the first sort of part of your business that automated with AI, or did you sort of start with more of the boring parts of AI, like this of businesses, like proposals, like audits, like things like that, as opposed to, or did you start with this?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. So what we did is we wanted a system to help with our writing. And we wanted it to be refined, and we wanted it to be read by SEO, and we wanted it to include the appropriate keywords and the appropriate densities and the appropriate places, as compared to the top 10 results, as compared to the Google APIs that pull in for NLPs, natural language processing. So we used that all for a writing system. And then it was like, okay, this works really, really well. But what if we could make it better? And so we go to the next step, and they're like, oh man, this is so cool. We can put a customer avatar into it to really refine our writing to know who we're speaking to. Basics of marketing. We're like, but can we make it better? And so it goes to the USPs and they're like, okay, can we make it better? And now everything feeds everything. And you can use all these different frameworks from everything, the Dan Kennedy frameworks, the Alex Hormozy frameworks, everything to creating offers. And you can put it all together to really do it. So it's just become this big thing that just builds on everything. And I think that's the way that the future is going, is we're not going into big teams so much anymore as we're going into highly specified operators. So we don't need junior executives anymore, which I feel bad for the generation coming up behind us, because there's not going to be the career entry level opportunities that there used to be. So, but it's a interesting world that we live in now.
Definitely, and you're right, there won't be sort of the entry-level jobs, but also there's new opportunities. There's way more opportunities with AI than I feel like than it was before. So, becoming AI literate as a young person, I feel like is so essential.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. In 5 years, maybe AI is smart enough to build AI for AI. I mean, that's what happened with the last version of ChatGPT, right? They used ChatGPT to literally build the next version of ChatGPT. And that's where we're going. That's everything in the world, right? So where do we stand out? It's the people who can code those, or I guess figure out how to implement them best, because again, we're still garbage in versus you get a garbage out. So I think it's very specialized operators in knowledge that can solve business problems differently than kind of where we're at today. And this is how crazy it's moving, right? So Google, one of the biggest companies in the world, they only have a 9-month roadmap right now on where they want to go, because AI is changing too quickly for them to predict a year from now where we're going to be in the world. Like, let that sink in. The biggest company in the world can't even plan a year from now because they don't know what's going to happen.
I'll put the frightness on anybody, I think. But yeah, definitely, nobody knows what the future is going to be with it. Like you say, even Google, let alone me and you or anybody else. So yeah, no, but buckle up, I suppose.
Yeah, and so I guess it's just getting back to the basics, right? So how do you make a really profitable business? You solve a really expensive problem in half the time for twice the money, because speed always wins. So if you can figure out a way to do it faster with more results, you'll win the game of business. And I think we're coming to a gold rush where there's, before we regulate AI to death, that we're in a gold rush, that the people who can figure this out right now can make 10 million, 20 million, $50 million in the next 3-5 years before everything gets regulated.
So it is a massive opportunity. But James, let's digress a little bit from AI, and I want to ask you, what's working well and where do you feel slight friction in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's working well is, again, we've been able to cut down on our headcount. AI has efficiently streamlined the whole process, and the output is better than anything we've ever done. Our friction in the business is still the people portion of the business. So although sales is coming along with AI, you can have AI agents, things of that nature. It's still not there yet. And so there's no replacing someone going and shaking a hand right now. It's hard. It's hard to do that, right? Not that we won't get there in the next year, because it's coming along quite quickly, especially with AI phone agents and things like that. You can replace your receptionist now, and it does just as good a job. On that outbound type of process, we're just not there yet. And so that's our biggest bottleneck, is finding the right people who understand where we're going and where we want to go and how much you have to work. Because again, I think there's a stopwatch going, and we have a very short amount of time to figure this out before AI does take over everyone's job. So that's always the hardest part, finding good people.
You're definitely one of the agencies that I've spoke to that's very AI forward. Do you know what I mean? That you're not sort of sitting on your heels with it. You're definitely moving forward, and that comes in the answer to that question as being people being the bottleneck, not processes being the bottleneck, which is not unheard of, but it's less. I hear it less than the latter.
Hmm. Yeah, it used to be processes, 4 years ago, but now you have a supercomputer that can process patterns and refine things with the a click of a button. Within 30 seconds, your whole SOP is refined. And here's, like, even being forward thinking, everyone puts everything out on YouTube these days, especially since Alex Hormozy came through and he's like, just give everything away for free and sell the implementation. But the problem with that now is that if you give everything away for free, you can put it into a program that can then transcribe it, that you then put it into AI and go, hey, make this an SOP for me and fine tune to my agency. Now I don't even need their agency because within 5 minutes, I just, didn't steal it. It's free information. I took the information that they put out there and just refined it for our processes. So that's, kind of where we're going, right? So AI forward for sure. Those who are not doing this right now are about to go out of business in 5 years if they don't make the change. So that's why we try to be forward in the process, and we're very transparent about using it in the process. But because we do that is why we've seen so much success, and we've helped to drive that $350 million in the last 5 years.
I agree with you. People who don't, it's like it's you're bigger, but it's almost like like when the internet came about, when social media came about, there definitely is resistance to it to some people, not from you, of course, but I mean from other businesses. There's slight resistance because why fix something that's not broke? But I do feel like what you said then, in 5 years' time, the people who don't act are the ones that are going to be struggling or out of business, and opposed to the people that are much more forward thinking with it.
Yeah, because your business is broken, you just don't see it yet.
Mm-hmm. You're not feeling the pain yet.
But you will. It's going to come. It's the same thing that happened with the newspaper industry, right? They're like, hey, why should we fix this newspaper? We dominate the news. And then cable TV came along, and then the internet came along. And then where are we at? And I'll tell you this, like in the newspaper industry is dying. I'm surprised there are any newspapers still left at this point because everything is consumed online. So those people who were in the newspaper industry would have lost an entire fortune if they didn't pivot to online digital ads. Same with Google and pay-per-click and SEO. When Google came around in 2000 or whatever it was, 99, 2000, somewhere in there, we did traditional advertising, right? Radio, television, newspapers, billboards. That was basically it. And then the internet came along and it shifted the way that people process their information in the world. So it changed society. And those who only want to stick with radio and television, not that it didn't work, because it still worked really, really well in the early 2010s, because that's what I did back then. It still worked really, really well at generating a return. But those who haven't shifted lost half of their audience they could talk to, if not more, which is why they had to shift to online. So they didn't see it at the time, but then they started feeling it. And that's just where we're at with AI. We're at the very early adoption point, and those who don't believe that it's going to be a problem in the future are the ones who are going to go out of business. And so me personally, if I were looking at a vendor too, because we look at vendors, those who don't use AI is an automatic disqualifier, just because I know what's coming, or at least I suspect what's coming based off of what's already happened, and looking at history, and history always repeats itself.
You could take them on, but you don't know how long the business is going to be up and running for. But no matter what you do with that, with your services you provide, if they're not built for longevity, then I can see why you'd be like, yeah, there's no point working together.
Yeah, right. Typewriters versus computers, right? It fundamentally changed the way the world works, and that's where we're at now.
Yeah, definitely. So James, my last couple of questions. Where do you want to be in terms of business in the next 12 to 18 months?
5x our business. If we 5x our business, I'll probably sell it, and then I'll retire a very happy man.
Yeah. What do you think has to happen sort of operationally for you to achieve that?
So we have a couple of different prongs on how I think we can do that. So one of the people who I respect a great deal is a man named Kyle Roof. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he is one of the most amazing SEOs on the planet. He actually had Google change their rules based off of work he had done. He's amazing. If you want to, he does podcasts all the time. Go find him. Anyway, he did a couple of consultation sessions for me, and he sold his agency for a lot of money. And I go, Kyle, hey, how'd you do that? And he goes, well, there's a couple of secrets. A, we got our SOPs so dialed in that anyone could do them, which means our margins went up because you could plug a VA instead of someone actually having to think into doing it, which now you can plug AI instead of a VA into it, which is great. So he goes, we had really high margins, and then we created 3 internal tools that we sold with our agency, and that really drove the value up. Because a service business, when you're trying to sell it, will get a 1-to-1 on the rolling 12, or maybe a 2-to-1, 4-to-1 if you're really good. But a tool can get a 10-to-1 because the margins are so good in them, and the user base can expand so quickly. And so he goes, create a tool. And so I'm like, interesting. And that's really what started this whole process of us wanting to create this internal tool for our agency. It wasn't just for efficiency, which it is amazing at that route. And it made us grow our margins just because of the efficiency. But if we want to sell our agency, it's something proprietary that we can sell with it in order to escalate the value a lot quicker. So that's one of the reasons. And then the second reason for that is now we've gotten it so far that it can almost become a standalone tool because it does everything from a strategy perspective that most agencies screw up. 99% of agencies screw up. So it looks at psychographics and demographics and ideal customer profiles. It creates USPs. It creates copy based off of those customers that we're trying to speak to. It will create a landing page that mirrors the copy of the ad in order to really resonate with those people. And it can all be done in a click of a button or 5 buttons, whatever it is, right? But it can be done within an hour, create a full campaign for us. Google ads, Facebook ads, Meta ads, videos, pictures, can put our people into the pictures now, which is really nuts. Can put our people into the videos, which is really nuts. So it can be done this whole route. So where we're trying to go in the future and how we're trying to get there is that two-pronged approach of, yes, we want to sell our agency, but we also want to sell our tool here probably, I don't know, 60, 90, 120, 180 days, sometime in the next 6 months, maybe try a public test and see if there's any adoption for it. And then we can go that way.
That's what makes, if you can build something like that, do you know what I mean? When you sell the business, it's not going to change by whoever's running the business. Do you know what I mean? And that's what gives it like makes it so sort of advantageous for business to buy. And that's obviously where you're going to get the higher price for it.
Yeah. And here's the amazing part. There's like 1,500 agencies just in Houston alone. So even looking at numbers and making it all work, if you sell a product at $100 a month, you only need 1,000 people in order to make $1 million. So, and that's just 1,000 people. There's more than 1,000 agencies in Houston, and $100 to replace junior executives and strategists and copywriters and everything, like it's a no-brainer. So that's where it really becomes exciting, is because, hey, what if instead of 1,000 people, we get 10,000 people?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money that can be made, which then you sell it because you can get a 10x return on that. If you're making $10 million, you can sell it for $100 million.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. James, my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be and why?
Magic wand fixing things. I think it's still, I haven't figured out the people part of it yet, because we're not quite big enough to afford the A+ players, the rock stars, the all-star killers, So if you can't bring those people in because you can't afford to pay them, where are you at? And so that's always our biggest thing. And so the best thing we can do is try to pre-sell it and then have that revenue coming in to then try and hire those people. But it's always chicken or the egg, right? What comes first in order to scale it? So if we figure out that people part of the business and we make sure that we can keep our margins really, really strong like they are now, I think that's the magic wand. And then you have your bottlenecks after that, like training program to make sure that they're performing in the way that you want and expect them to, which will become the bottleneck after getting the right people in. So there's a couple of those bottlenecks. And I think if I had that magic wand, that would be it, is just to have all that infrastructure in place, because then it's just turning the ads on, having the people to have the sales calls, and then the sky's the limit and you sell the thing. It's someone else's problem at that point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like that's a good answer to the magic wand question. It's a good use of the magic wand as well, if you did have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So James, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved our conversation. Where can people who are watching and listening reach out to you if they're wanting to work with Illumination Marketing?
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. So if you want to reach us, you can reach us at our website, marketingillumination.com. You can reach out to us there. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube that we talk about all these concepts that we actually put into our tool. We have a TikTok that we're trying to grow. We have social media. You can reach out to us there. We check that as well. And then obviously our phone number's on our website if you really need to get a hold of us.
Well, there you have it, everybody. If you're wanting to reach out to James, reach out to him on any of those channels there. And please, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, send to a friend, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, James.
My pleasure. Thank you.